Just a few years ago, hardly anyone talked about Guyana. A small country tucked on the northern edge of South America, bordered by Venezuela, Brazil, and Suriname. It was one of the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere. Its GDP was smaller than that of some mid-sized US cities, and nearly half of its population lived below the poverty line. Today, that same country has become the fastest growing economy on Earth. Guyana's GDP has exploded by more than 1,000% since 2015. In 2022 alone, the economy grew by over 60%, the highest in the world. And all of this happened because of one thing: oil. In 2015, ExxonMobil made one of the biggest offshore oil discoveries of the century, just off the coast of Guyana. Since then, the country has gone from being virtually unknown in global markets to producing hundreds of thousands of barrels of crude oil every single day. For a population of barely 800,000 people, that is an astonishing amount of wealth per capita. But what's truly fascinating and worrying is that Guyana's story follows a familiar pattern. It's the story of a poor country suddenly becoming rich overnight, and the enormous question of whether that new wealth will build a lasting future, or simply destroy itself through corruption, inequality, and dependence. Let's take a closer look at how Guyana became the world's fastest growing economy, and what that really means for its people. Before the oil boom, Guyana was once a quiet, struggling economy. A former British colony that gained independence in 1966, it relied mainly on agriculture, rice, sugarcane, and on mining resources like bauxite and gold. But these industries were unstable, and global commodity prices often left the country's economy at the mercy of international markets. Decades of political instability and ethnic division, mainly between Indo-Guyanese and Afro-Guyanese communities, also slowed development. The government was often criticized for inefficiency and corruption, and thousands of young Guyanese left the country in search of better opportunities abroad. By 2014, Guyana's entire GDP was just around $4 billion. That's less than what a mid-sized US company like Netflix earns in a single week. The idea that Guyana could one day rival some of the richest nations in income per capita would have sounded absurd. And yet, in 2015, everything changed. The discovery that changed everything. In May 2015, a consortium led by ExxonMobil, along with Hess Corporation and China's CNOOC, struck oil in the Stabroek Block, about 120 miles off Guyana's coast. The discovery was massive. Some estimates say over 11 billion barrels of recoverable oil are now confirmed, and new fields are still being found. For context, that's more oil per capita than almost any other nation on Earth. Guyana, a country with fewer people than the city of San Francisco, suddenly held oil reserves comparable to those of Kuwait. Production began in late 2019, and output has grown at a breakneck pace ever since. As of 2025, Guyana produces over 600,000 barrels of oil per day, and it's projected to reach 1.3 million barrels daily by 2030. If those projections hold, Guyana could produce more oil than Mexico or Norway, countries hundreds of times its size. That kind of growth has rewritten the country's economic statistics almost overnight. The IMF projects Guyana's GDP per capita, which was around $6,000 in 2019, could exceed $30,000 by the early 2030s, potentially surpassing even the United States in relative terms. But numbers don't always tell the full story. The oil money boom. Oil has flooded Guyana's economy with money. Billions of dollars now flow into the country's natural resource fund, a sovereign wealth account managed by the central bank. In 2023 alone, Guyana earned more than $1.6 billion in oil revenue, equivalent to nearly 30% of its entire GDP before the boom began. This influx of wealth has triggered a construction frenzy in the capital, Georgetown. New hotels, offices, and luxury housing developments are rising everywhere. Foreign investors from the US, China, and the Middle East are pouring in. Flights are full. Prices are up. Restaurants are packed with oil executives. It's the kind of economic transformation that looks miraculous on paper, but it also brings enormous pressure. Inflation is rising, inequality is widening, and the country's small institutions are struggling to manage such sudden wealth. Most of Guyana's workforce still lacks the technical skills needed in the oil industry, meaning many high-paying jobs are going to foreigners. And while the government insists that the oil boom will lift everyone, many ordinary Guyanese say they haven't felt the benefits yet. Who really benefits? One of the biggest controversies in Guyana's oil story is the contract signed between the government and ExxonMobil. Experts and watchdog groups say the deal is heavily tilted in favor of the company. Under the agreement, Guyana receives only about 14.5% of total oil revenue, far below what most other oil-producing countries get. The government defends the deal, arguing that Guyana needed to attract investors to a new and untested oil frontier. But critics warn that the nation could be losing tens of billions of dollars in future profits. There are also growing concerns about transparency and governance. Guyana's history of political division and corruption makes some observers worry that oil wealth could deepen inequalities and fuel new conflicts. The government has promised to use the revenues for public infrastructure, healthcare, and education, and to invest in a sovereign wealth fund modeled after Norway's. But in practice, many fear the money will be mismanaged, as it has been in so many other resource-rich countries. The resource curse, or paradox of plenty, is a well-known trap. When countries discover massive natural wealth, it often leads not to prosperity but to dependency, corruption, and instability. Venezuela, just next door, is a haunting example. The question now is whether Guyana can avoid that fate. A regional power in the making? If managed well, Guyana's oil wealth could transform not just its own future, but the entire region. It could become a major energy exporter to the Caribbean and North America, and a key supplier as global demand shifts away from OPEC. Guyana's oil is also high quality, low sulfur crude, which makes it particularly valuable in cleaner fuel markets. And because Exxon and its partners operate under strong technical oversight, the extraction process is relatively efficient compared to many developing countries. But success won't be automatic. Guyana still faces massive challenges: poor infrastructure, limited human capital, and vulnerability to climate change. Flooding already threatens much of its coastal territory, including the capital, which sits below sea level. The irony is striking: Guyana is now a rising oil power, yet one of the countries most at risk from global warming. The human side of the boom. Beyond the economic data, there's a very real human story unfolding. For the first time in generations, young Guyanese who once emigrated in search of work are returning home. Small businesses are opening. The skyline of Georgetown is changing. But not everyone is optimistic. The cost of living has surged. Rents in the capital have tripled. Local wages, meanwhile, have barely moved. Many worry that Guyana could become a two-tier society, one for the wealthy oil elite, and another for everyone else. The World Bank and IMF have both urged the government to invest quickly in education, healthcare, and infrastructure to prevent those divides from hardening. At the same time, social tensions remain fragile. Guyana's ethnic divisions have shaped its politics for decades, and if oil money deepens those divides, the consequences could be severe. The geopolitical angle. Guyana's rise has also attracted international attention, and not just for its economic potential. Neighboring Venezuela has long claimed part of Guyana's territory, known as the Essequibo region, which covers nearly two-thirds of the country's landmass. Now that oil has been discovered offshore, those territorial claims have become far more intense. The dispute has reached the International Court of Justice, and while Guyana has international support, including from the US, tensions remain high. For Washington, Guyana is becoming strategically important, a democratic ally in South America with vast energy potential and growing influence. That adds a layer of geopolitics to an already complex story, one where oil, power, and diplomacy now mix in ways that will shape the region's future. The big question. Guyana's rise is nothing short of extraordinary. In just 10 years, it's gone from a struggling post-colonial economy to an oil-rich powerhouse, with one of the highest growth rates in modern history. But the ultimate question is not whether Guyana can get rich, it's whether it can stay rich. Oil production will make Guyana one of the wealthiest countries per capita on paper, but unless that wealth is invested wisely, in education, diversification, and infrastructure, the boom could fade as quickly as it arrived. History is filled with examples of nations that struck oil and failed to turn it into long-term prosperity. Norway is one of the few that succeeded, but it took decades of careful planning, political discipline, and social trust. Guyana's challenge is to build that kind of stability from scratch, in a country still learning how to manage sudden abundance. If it succeeds, it could become one of the great economic success stories of the 21st century. If it fails, it could become another cautionary tale about how fast fortunes can rise and fall when oil and politics collide. If you found Guyana's rise as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps this channel grow and reach more people who love understanding how global economies evolve. And let me know in the comments, do you think Guyana will manage its oil wealth wisely, or is it heading toward the same trap that's hit so many resource-rich countries before? If you enjoy stories that reveal the real forces shaping the world's wealth and power, subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.